is something that exists in reality and corresponds to the real state of affairs. But sometimes it is difficult to accept the truth, and a person creates a lie which they sincerely begin to believe and convince others. 11 young men and 1 girl met in a hotel room to celebrate the new year. Strange collaboration, you might think, and you would be right. But wait, there is one fact that will completely change your opinion. The men at this party are all members of a sexual minority, which means that 12 friends just met to have fun and celebrate the year 2021. Indeed, they celebrated the new year very cheerfully, so much so that on January 1st, the group had to take the only girl to the hospital, where doctors declared her dead. But who was she? How did she die? And was anyone charged in connection with her death? That's all in order next. Let's break down the past party almost minute by minute, see what happened on that fateful night, and you'll definitely understand why we started this story with the notion of truth. On December 31st, 2020 in Manila, the capital of the Philippines, at the 4-star City Garden Grand Hotel, John Paul de la Serna checked in at 11:00 a.m. Christine Dacera checked in later, and during the day, 9 other guys checked into room 2207 and room 2209, which were on the same floor. Hotel manager John Paul Reyes joined the merry company just after midnight. New Year's Eve night was all about fun, dancing, and alcohol. Lots of alcohol. Ram Mokalita woke up around 10:00 a.m. and noticed Christine sleeping in the bathtub. He covered her with a blanket and went back to sleep. When he woke up several hours later, he found her unconscious and beginning to turn blue. Christine was taken to the hospital by 3 friends and hotel staff, but upon arrival at the emergency room, doctors only pronounced her dead. The 11 guys with the only girl spent the entire night in the hotel room, and she was dead by morning. News headlines about the crime shocked the public. Everyone imagined the story the same way because it was obvious what a group of young guys and 1 girl could do all night. But what really happened at New Year's Eve night, and from what Christine Dacera died, was to be solved by the investigation. Christine Angelica Dacera was born on April 13, 1997, into the well-to-do family of John Nestor Dacera and Sharon Rose Faba Dacera, and grew up in Barangay San Isidro, General Santos City. She grew up an outgoing, intelligent, and independent girl. Christine was a loving sister to her 3 siblings, Monica, Chloe, and JJ. After graduating from high school, she moved to the larger and more promising city of Davao on the shores of the bay of the same name. There, she enrolled in university. Christine studied diligently, danced, modeled, and was active on social media. Christine was also the epitome of beauty and intelligence. In 2017, she graduated with honors from the University of the Philippines, Mindanao, in Davao City, where she earned a Bachelor of Arts in Communication Arts with a major in Media Arts. The girl had been actively involved in modeling and theatrical performances. On August 5, 2017, she competed against 8 other contenders for the title of Miss Silva Davao 2017 at the New City Commercial Corporation Mall in Davao City. She came in 2nd place. In June 2018, she participated in the annual fashion show. From September 2017 to January 2019, she worked as a marketing consultant for Gisano malls in different parts of Mindanao, including Davao City, General Santos City, Tagum, Turo, and Digos. Christine's life had been colorful and fulfilling. In February 2019, her life's dream came true. She moved to Manila to start working as a flight attendant for PL Express, a subsidiary of Philippine Airlines. Christine Dacera's last flight as a flight attendant was on December 28, 2020. Christine's death was immediately publicized, leading to numerous discussions and theories in the community. Initially, the police suspected that Christine was most likely abused and killed by the group of guys she was partying with on New Year's Eve. Even without autopsy results and a toxicology report, Makati City Police filed preliminary charges of assault and murder against 11 men. The Philippine National Police declared the case closed. Arrests were made with charges and identification of suspects. 3 of the party participants were detained after surrendering to authorities on their own. But the main answer to what really caused Christine's death was the forensic medical report. The autopsy of Christine's body was conducted in Pasay City at the Rizal Funeral Home under the direction of Forensic Medical Officer Police Major Michael Nick Sarmiento on January 3, 2021. The examination of Christine Dacera's body was completed, and a forensic report was issued, which found that her death was due to natural causes, specifically a ruptured aortic aneurysm. However, the report also mentioned bruises on the girl's right arm, right thigh, knees, ankles, and right foot, as well as a linear abrasion on her right thigh. Deeply healed lacerations and abrasions were also reported during the genital exam. The National Capital Region Police Department announced that a special investigation team had been set up to look into the case. Christine's family was unwilling to accept that a young, vibrant girl could die a natural death prematurely. At a press conference on January 5, 2021, Christine's family stated that they had seen the autopsy report that said she died of an aneurysm. However, they also stated that the autopsy performed was incomplete and requested a second autopsy. The parents of the deceased were trying to understand how Christine's aorta was ruptured. After all, the police and the Dacera family lawyer believed that the aneurysm was the result of assault or abuse, which means it was not a natural death and the perpetrators should be punished. The prosecutor's office identified all of the 11 men who were with Christine throughout the night. Some of them were her co-workers. Other young men were friends of her friends whom Christine was meeting for the first time. It turned out that Christine was the initiator of this party. She had booked the hotel room herself a few days in advance and coordinated this party with her friends. Her mom, Sharon, was aware of her daughter's friendship with men and never opposed it. Since childhood, Christine had found it easier to socialize and make friends with the male gender, so it was considered normal in their family. In addition, she and her friends usually did not go home for vacations, so it became a tradition for them to meet each other every year. Christine was able to call her family just after midnight to inform them of the ongoing celebration at the Makati Hotel and to wish her family a happy new year. During the video call, the family could see Christine's friends and the surrounding festive environment. However, there has been new speculation about the abuse allegation, so in the case, the main evidence of the incident became the frames of the video from the hotel lobby, the study of which helped the police almost minute by minute to reconstruct the picture of what happened. It should be noted that the party was to be held in room 2209. Christine Dacera had booked this room. The main events began to unfold in the late afternoon. At 11:21 p.m., Christine leaves room 2209 and goes to room 2207. At 11:38 p.m., the company returns to their room. Christine goes last, holding her shoes and a glass. At 2:50 a.m., Christine, holding the hand of a new acquaintance, Valentine, goes to room 2207. While they are at a neighbor's house, a hotel employee brings an extra mattress to room 2209. At 2:52 a.m., Valentine accompanies Christine to her room. Valentine's gait shows that the girl is already quite drunk. Her gait is too relaxed, and she is holding a bottle in her hand. The friends stop at the door, and Christine suddenly kisses Valentine, but the man quickly pulls away. After that, the couple goes inside. At 3:15 a.m., Christine hurriedly leaves her room and goes to her neighbor's room. 6 minutes later, one of the guys leaves there and heads to room 2209, presumably to call his friends. At 3:22 a.m., Christine Dacera can be seen chatting with another man in the next room on the right side of the hallway while two other men walk past them. She looked upset. Suddenly, Christine hugs one of her friends, and then they disappear from the view of the cameras altogether. At 4:13 a.m., John Della Serna can be seen carrying Christine back to the first room. At 4:22 a.m., the camera again captures Christine at the door of room 2207. It's unclear what brought her there again. She practically falls off her feet, and a guy who looks like John Della Serna picks her up by the waist and carries her to room 2209. Christine looks pretty drunk. At 5:05 a.m., the camera captures Christine laughing as she runs away from a guy who looks like Louis Del Lima. Afterward, they're standing outside room 2207. Christine looks normal, and with him, she enters room 2209. At 6:23 a.m., Christine makes her last appearance on camera alive. Valentine carries her in his arms from room 2207. The girl is conscious. It was obviously an eventful night, but the most important truth still remains behind the scenes. The party continued until dawn. Around 12 o'clock noon, Christine was found unconscious in the bathtub. Her friends carried her to the floor and repeatedly attempted cardiopulmonary resuscitation. After unsuccessful attempts, they called for help at the front desk. A few minutes later, the hotel manager and the head of security arrived in the room. They used a wheelchair to lower Christine to the first floor of the hotel. Ramil Galita accompanied Christine to the hospital. The doctors, unfortunately, only stated the girl's death. Ramil called Christine's mom and broke the bad news. It can be assumed that what was happening really looked like a fun party, and definitely, to be in one room, such a large company was cramped, so young people chaotically moved all night from room to room. But the investigators had suspicions about the use of illegal substances to enhance the effect of alcohol. When questioned, some of the detainees claimed that there were no illegal substances during the party, but only whiskey and tequila. It is worth noting that illegal drugs were initially the centerpiece of the investigation, as the testimony of one of the detainees reported that Christine had doubts about the contents of the drinks and suggested that someone may have spiked it with an unknown substance. It transpired that guests were asked to bring their own food and drinks. Because of this, there was speculation that Christine Dacera's drink was poisoned and could have triggered the aneurysm that eventually led to her death. But the autopsy report stated that no alcohol or illegal drugs taken the night before her death would cause this type of aortic dilation or defect. Substance information was later unconfirmed, as no illegal substances or traces of them were found in the room or in the suspect's personal belongings. An examination and search of the two rooms, as well as the neighboring room 2209, looking for potential evidence, did not yield the desired results that at least indirectly prove the violent death of Christine Dacera. Under questioning, Mark Rosales and John Della Serna publicly admitted their unconventional orientation and stated that Christine was their best friend and they would never hurt her. John also revealed that they had to bring Christine back from room 2207 because she was already vomiting early in the morning. Ramil Galita said that around 10 o'clock a.m. he found Christine in the bathtub of their room and thought she was asleep, so he just covered her with a blanket. However, around noon, after he woke up and went back to wake her up, he realized the girl was blue and not breathing. He rushed to his friends for help. The hotel advised that she be rushed to Makati Medical Center, where she was pronounced dead on arrival, reportedly due to a ruptured aortic aneurysm. The hospital reported the death to the Makati City Police. Meanwhile, other men from a neighboring hotel room had left by then. On January 4th, the Philippine National Police sent a separate statement to the media about the Christine Dacera incident, saying that the case was almost solved despite some missing details and conflicting reports on the matter. Police Chief Debold Sinas said they already had 3 suspects and they had been apprehended. Other suspects were being sought, but as early as January 6, the Makati City Prosecutor's Office ordered the release of the 3 men who were in custody due to a lack of evidence. Prosecutors insisted that the evidence presented was insufficient to establish that Christine was abused. They also said that even if Christine Dacera was abused, the police have yet to prove that this is what caused her death. Moreover, the party was a gathering of men of non-traditional orientation where they were all flirting with each other, and Christine was an extra woman. Ramil Galita, as well as most of those present at the party, were stewards and co-workers of Christine Dacera at PAL Airlines, indicating that she was well acquainted with these men and their orientation. On January 13, 2021, the Makati City Prosecutor's Office launched a preliminary investigation, and based on an official autopsy that confirmed that the 23-year-old died from a ruptured aortic aneurysm, the prosecutor's office also called on the police to release the results of the victim's DNA analysis, toxicology report, and histopath study. However, Christine's mother, Sharon Dacera, criticized the report that her daughter was not abused. She appeared on a news show where she claimed that her daughter was abused by a group of guys. If you see Christine's body, if you're a mother, you'll probably feel the pain that Christine suffered because of them. But my daughter can't talk anymore because she's dead. The woman spoke out on the TV program. Sharon cited the lacerations and bruises on her daughter's body, which were not recorded in the autopsy, as evidence that the report was inaccurate. Christine's family later said they wanted another autopsy to challenge the authorities' initial findings that she died a natural death. The basis was injuries and bruising that were not documented in the first report. Family spokesperson Brick Reyes said that the injuries on the victim's legs and arms, as well as her remains, would provide sufficient evidence that Christine was abused. Rick Reyes also said that they believe the young woman was drugged and abused before she died. Christine was already intoxicated and complained that something seemed to have been spiked in her drink during the New Year's Eve celebration. Christine's parents said they had filed a complaint demanding the immediate dismissal of Michael Nick Sarmiento for gross negligence and gross incompetence in preparing Christine's forensic report and death certificate. Dr. Macy Ramos, a friend of the Dacera family, told reporters that the body was subjected to a second autopsy. He also emphasized that the biological fluids recovered from the second autopsy had been forwarded to the Death Investigation Unit, which would provide more details after a final evaluation and consolidation of all the findings of its forensic team. The pathology autopsy results from the Southern Police District Crime Lab Division's report, which was eventually shared on social media, showed that the cause of death was consistent with what was previously reported as a ruptured aortic aneurysm. The official autopsy revealed that Christine was not abused on the night of her death. The actual cause of Dacera's death lies in the aorta. The constant increase in blood pressure in the aorta caused the defect to weaken, and eventually the aorta ruptured. The Philippine National Police Crime Lab reports said at the time the aorta rupture occurred, there was blood loss. Christine felt various symptoms, such as weakness, nausea, and sweating. The blood loss due to the aortic rupture killed her within a few hours, the report said. This means that the girl had a ruptured aortic aneurysm, which enlarged the lower part of the main vessel, aorta, that supplies blood to the entire body. This vessel runs from a person's heart through the chest and abdomen. Since the aorta is the largest vessel in the body, if it ruptures, a person can lose a huge amount of blood, potentially being fatal, as in this case. In addition, it was noted that Christine's aneurysm did not occur recently. It started a long time ago. The report states that dilation is a chronic condition and was present long before her death. Had she not died that fateful night, she would still have died in any scenario that would cause her blood pressure to rise enough to rupture the aneurysm. The autopsy also revealed that Dacera's heart was enlarged compared to a healthy heart, further confirming Christina Dacera's undiagnosed hypertension. For the most part, it can be confirmed that the girl's death was due to natural causes, but the widespread misinformation brought shame and persecution to those 11 young guys who were at the party and sincerely tried to give Christine first aid but were labeled as criminals. All 11 guys who were preliminarily charged have since been released from custody. The Makati City Prosecutor's Office tried to rectify the situation and said that at the time of the publicity, the evidence presented was not enough to establish that Christine Dacera was abused, and it was impossible to obtain proper evidence at that time. Therefore, they had to build a version based on signs of deterioration of the victim's body. In addition, 2 other suspects said that the police forced them to give false testimony that there were illegal drugs at the New Year's Eve party. Another participant in the story explained his kiss with Christine, which was captured by surveillance cameras on the eve of her death. According to the man, it was Christine herself who initiated it. He, however, tried to push her away. Law enforcement officials were criticized for not conducting a thorough toxicological examination when the flight attendant's body was found. The charges against the men were later dropped due to lack of evidence. The death of Christine Dacera attracted widespread media attention as a result of suspicious circumstances that seemed to contradict the findings of the Philippine National Police. Christine's case continued to receive a lot of publicity online as further developments came from her family, who in no way could accept the truth and believed in the natural death of their daughter. The girl's mother, Sharon, appealed to President Rodrigo Duterte for help in seeking justice for her daughter. I am an ordinary person. You also have a daughter. I want to speak out openly because I don't want anyone to be victimized by the kind of cruelty and barbarism like my Christine. Christine Dacera was buried at Forest Lake Memorial Park in her hometown of General Santos more than a week after her death. A wave of condolences, reposts, and farewells traveled across the social media accounts of Christine's friends and co-workers. Ultimately, the unconventional case of Dacera serves as a prime example of how media misinformation can affect the public and impact those involved. As we come to the end, the story returns to the truth, which, sooner or later, in any form, is bound to take its place of honor. After all, the truth is one. But Christine's family is still convinced that the girl was killed by these people and that there is something secret in this story. Personally, I do not stand and found no answers to the question about bruises and wounds on Christine's body. Why was it hushed up? It seems that despite the presence of wounds and bruises on Christine's body, the cause of her death was not them, but the rupture of the aorta due to heart disease, so they did not focus on the wounds on her body. In my opinion, there are a lot of oddities and inconsistencies in this case, but you guys are the judge. I would like to wish Christine's family to accept the irreparable loss because young guys, whether they are guilty or not, will end up remembering the same sad story every New Year's Eve and making excuses for the rest of their lives. The Carson family lived in a picturesque suburban neighborhood, the kind with neatly trimmed lawns, white picket fences, and an aura of tranquility. Richard Carson, a well-respected accountant, and his wife Sophia, a beloved elementary school teacher, seemed to embody the perfect American dream. They had 2 children, Anna and Tyler, who were the pride and joy of their parents. One crisp autumn morning, the facade of perfection shattered. Richard Carson returned home from a weekend fishing trip with his friends to find the house eerily silent. The usual warmth and cheer were absent, replaced by an unsettling stillness. He called out for Sophia but received no response. Anxiety gnawed at him as he climbed the stairs to their bedroom. The sight that greeted him was every husband's nightmare. Sophia lay motionless on the bed, her skin a pale hue that contrasted starkly with the dark, dried blood staining the sheets. Richard's heart pounded as he rushed to her side, desperately trying to shake her awake. It was futile. Sophia was gone. Richard's frantic call to 911 brought the police and paramedics rushing to the scene. They confirmed what Richard already knew. Sophia Carson was dead. The initial investigation began with officers combing through the house for clues. Richard was in shock, barely able to process the questions thrown his way. Detective Sarah McMillan, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for her keen instincts, took charge of the case. She quickly established that there were no signs of forced entry, suggesting that Sophia knew her attacker. As the investigation progressed, Richard's alibi was scrutinized, but his fishing buddies corroborated his story, placing him miles away at the time of Sophia's death. The community was in disbelief. The Carsons had always appeared to be the perfect couple, deeply in love and committed to their family. However, as the days passed, whispers of Richard's suspected infidelity began to surface. Sophia's best friend, Laura, mentioned that Sophia had confided in her about her fears that Richard was cheating. This revelation cast a shadow of suspicion over Richard, despite his solid alibi. The media quickly picked up the story, painting a picture of a troubled marriage and a potential crime of passion. The pressure mounted on the police to solve the case, but with Richard's airtight alibi, they were at a loss. It was then that Sophia's sister, Megan, decided to take matters into her own hands. She hired a private investigator, Jake Thompson, to dig deeper into Sophia's suspicions and uncover the truth behind her sister's death. Richard and Sophia Carson's love story began in high school. They were the quintessential sweethearts, inseparable and deeply in love. After graduation, they went to college together, got married, and started a family. Their life seemed like a fairy tale filled with love, success, and 2 beautiful children. Richard's career as an accountant flourished, and Sophia found her calling as a teacher. They were well-liked in their community, active in local events, and always seen together at neighborhood gatherings. But beneath the surface, Sophia harbored growing suspicions about her husband's fidelity. It started with small things: late nights at the office, unexplained phone calls, and Richard's increasing emotional distance. Sophia confided in her best friend, Laura, sharing her fears and doubts. Laura advised her to confront Richard, but Sophia was hesitant. She didn't want to believe that the man she loved could betray her. As months turned into years, Sophia's suspicions deepened. She found herself checking Richard's phone when he wasn't looking, scrutinizing his behavior for any signs of infidelity. Her anxiety grew, casting a shadow over her once happy marriage. She often asked Laura if she was overreacting, but Laura could see the toll it was taking on her friend. One evening, Sophia found a lipstick stain on Richard's collar. It was the final straw. She confronted him, demanding the truth. Richard denied any wrongdoing, insisting that it was a misunderstanding. He claimed he was loyal and devoted, but Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. Their arguments became more frequent and intense. Sophia felt trapped in a web of doubt and mistrust, while Richard grew increasingly frustrated with her accusations. In her darkest moments, Sophia wondered if she was losing her mind. She contemplated hiring a private investigator, but feared what she might discover. Instead, she continued to confide in Laura, who remained her steadfast support. Laura, concerned for her friend's well-being, suggested they document everything. Sophia began keeping a journal, recording every suspicious incident, every fight, and every moment of doubt. She hoped that if the truth ever came out, she would have the evidence to confront Richard once and for all. Sophia's sister, Megan, was also aware of the tensions in the Carson household. She had always been close to Sophia and noticed the changes in her demeanor. Megan urged Sophia to take action, but Sophia remained paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. As the months passed, Sophia's suspicions became an all-consuming obsession. She couldn't escape the nagging feeling that her husband was leading a double life. This unrelenting doubt ultimately led Megan to hire Jake Thompson, determined to uncover the truth and bring justice for her sister. Detective Sarah McMillan's team worked tirelessly to piece together the events leading up to Sophia Carson's death. They interviewed family, friends, and neighbors, trying to build a profile of Sophia's life and the possible motives for her murder. Richard's cooperation was noted, but his solid alibi kept him out of immediate suspicion. Megan, desperate for answers, turned to private investigator Jake Thompson. Jake was known for his tenacity and skill in uncovering hidden truths. With a career spanning over 2 decades, he had a reputation for solving the most challenging cases. When Megan approached him, he listened intently to her concerns about Richard's infidelity and Sophia's suspicions. Jake agreed to take the case, starting with a thorough review of Sophia's journal. The detailed entries painted a picture of a woman tormented by doubt and fear. Sophia's descriptions of Richard's behavior and her growing anxiety provided Jake with valuable insights into the possible cracks in their seemingly perfect marriage. Jake's first step was to delve into Richard's background. He conducted surveillance, followed Richard to work, and monitored his interactions. Richard appeared to be a devoted father and professional, but Jake knew better than to take things at face value. Interviews with Sophia's friends and colleagues revealed a woman who was deeply loved and respected. They spoke of her kindness, dedication to her students, and the love she had for her family. However, they also mentioned the changes they had seen in her over the past few years. Laura, Sophia's best friend, was a crucial source of information. She shared the details of Sophia's fears and the confrontations she had with Richard. Laura also mentioned a woman named Carla Mason, a former colleague of Richard's who had once been very close to him. Sophia had always been wary of Carla, suspecting her of having an affair with Richard. Jake's investigation led him to Carla Mason. He dug into her background, uncovering a series of troubling details. Carla had a history of unstable relationships and a reputation for being manipulative. She had left the company where she worked with Richard under mysterious circumstances, and Jake's instincts told him there was more to the story. As Jake pieced together the puzzle, he began to see a pattern. Carla's presence in Richard's life, Sophia's escalating suspicions, and the sudden violent end to Sophia's life were all connected. He knew he was onto something significant, but he needed concrete evidence to prove Carla's involvement. Jake intensified his surveillance on Carla, watching her every move. He interviewed her acquaintances, piecing together a profile of a woman driven by jealousy and obsession. It became clear that Carla harbored a deep resentment towards Sophia, viewing her as the obstacle to her happiness with Richard. With the pieces falling into place,
Jake prepared to confront Carla, determined to uncover the truth and bring justice for Sophia Carson. Jake Thompson was no stranger to the darker side of human nature, with years of experience as a private investigator. He had seen it all: infidelity, fraud, even murder. But the Carson case had a complexity that intrigued him. As he delved deeper, the
tangled web of deceit and betrayal began to unravel. Richard Carson, on the surface, was a model husband and father, but Jake's investigation revealed another side to him. Richard had indeed been unfaithful, and his affair with Carla Mason was more than a fleeting indiscretion. Carla Mason was a striking woman in her early 30s with a magnetic presence that drew people to her. She had met Richard when they both worked at the same accounting firm. Their affair began innocently enough with shared lunches and late-night conversations, but it quickly escalated into a passionate and clandestine relationship. Jake's surveillance provided him with the evidence he needed. He captured photos of Richard and Carla meeting in secret, their intimate moments betraying the depth of their connection. But it wasn't just the affair that caught Jake's attention. It was Carla's behavior. She was possessive, obsessive, and clearly driven by a desire to replace Sophia in Richard's life. Jake's investigation into Carla's past revealed a troubled history. She had grown up in a dysfunctional family with a mother who was emotionally distant and a series of abusive relationships. These experiences had left Carla with deep emotional scars and a desperate need for validation and love. When she met Richard, she saw him as her ticket to a better life, a chance to escape her past and find happiness. However, Carla's obsession with Richard took a dark turn when she realized he would never leave Sophia. Despite Richard's promises and assurances, he remained with his wife, further fueling Carla's resentment. She began to see Sophia as the obstacle standing between her and the life she desired. Her jealousy grew, and with it, a dangerous resolve. Jake's breakthrough came when he discovered a series of emails between Carla and Richard. In them, Carla expressed her frustration and anger, accusing Richard of leading her on and demanding that he leave Sophia. Richard's responses were apologetic but non-committal, indicating his reluctance to abandon his family. One email in particular stood out. It was sent a week before Sophia's death. Carla had written a long, emotional message threatening to expose their affair if Richard didn't take action. She hinted at a plan to remove Sophia from the picture, a chilling foreshadowing of the tragedy that would soon unfold. Armed with this evidence, Jake intensified his efforts to link Carla directly to the crime. He interviewed her former colleagues and friends, uncovering a pattern of manipulative and unstable behavior. They described Carla as someone who would go to great lengths to get what she wanted, often using deceit and emotional manipulation to achieve her goals. One colleague in particular provided a crucial piece of information. He recalled a conversation with Carla where she had fantasized about a life with Richard, free from the constraints of his marriage. She had spoken with a chilling detachment about the possibility of Sophia disappearing, a comment that now took on a sinister significance. Jake knew he was close. He gathered all the evidence he had collected and prepared to confront Carla. He needed her to confess, to break under the weight of the truth. Carla Mason's affair with Richard Carson had started with innocent flirtation and grown into a full-blown obsession. She had fallen hard for Richard, seeing him as her escape from a life of loneliness and pain. But as their relationship deepened, so did her jealousy and desire to replace Sophia Carson. The affair began 3 years prior at an office holiday party. Richard, charming and attentive, had noticed Carla sitting alone and struck up a conversation. They found common ground in their love for their work and shared frustrations about their personal lives. Richard confided in Carla about his strained marriage, while Carla shared her dreams of finding true love. Their connection was instant and electric. Soon, they were meeting for lunches, then dinners, and finally secret rendezvous at hotels. Richard was careful to keep their affair hidden, but Carla's feelings for him grew stronger with each passing day. She fantasized about a future where they could be together openly, free from the constraints of his marriage. Carla's fantasies, however, were marred by the reality of Sophia's existence. Every time Richard went home to his wife, Carla's resentment festered. She started to view Sophia as the obstacle to her happiness, the barrier standing between her and the life she wanted with Richard. Carla's behavior became increasingly erratic. She would call Richard at all hours, demanding to know where he was and who he was with. She became possessive, monitoring his social media and showing up unannounced at his office. Richard, initially flattered by her attention, began to feel trapped by her neediness. The breaking point came when Carla discovered that Richard had lied to her about spending a weekend with Sophia. Enraged, she confronted him, demanding that he choose between her and his wife. Richard, caught off guard by her intensity, tried to calm her down. He promised he would leave Sophia, but deep down he knew he couldn't follow through. As Carla's obsession grew, so did her hatred for Sophia. She started to stalk her, learning her routines and habits. Carla would drive by the Carson house late at night, watching from the shadows as Sophia went about her life. Her anger boiled over as she saw the life she wanted being lived by another woman. Carla's plan to remove Sophia took shape over several months. She began to fantasize about ways to eliminate her rival, her thoughts growing darker and more dangerous. The email she sent to Richard threatening to expose their affair was a desperate attempt to force his hand. But when he failed to act, Carla decided to take matters into her own hands. On the night of the murder, Carla waited until she knew Richard was away on his fishing trip. She had meticulously planned every detail, from disabling the security cameras to ensuring she left no trace of her presence. She broke into the Carson house using a spare key Richard had given her, moving silently through the darkened rooms. Sophia was asleep when Carla entered the bedroom. The sight of her rival, peaceful and unaware, fueled Carla's rage. She approached the bed, a knife clutched tightly in her hand. Sophia woke up just as Carla lunged, but it was too late. The attack was swift and brutal, driven by years of pent-up anger and resentment. After the deed was done, Carla stood over Sophia's lifeless body, a mixture of triumph and horror washing over her. She had done it. She had removed the obstacle to her happiness. But as the adrenaline faded, the reality of her actions set in. She quickly wiped down the surfaces she had touched, making sure to leave no evidence behind. Then she slipped out of the house and disappeared into the night. Carla believed she had committed the perfect crime, but Jake Thompson's investigation unraveled her carefully constructed alibi. His surveillance and interviews revealed the depth of her obsession and the lengths she had gone to in order to be with Richard. The evidence he gathered painted a chilling picture of a woman consumed by jealousy and willing to kill to get what she wanted. As Jake prepared to confront Carla, he knew the gravity of the situation. He had seen it all: infidelity, fraud, even murder. But the Carson case had a complexity that intrigued him. He had delved deep into a tangled web of deceit and betrayal, and now he was ready to bring justice for Sophia Carson. Jake Thompson knew that Carla Mason's fragile psyche would be her undoing. The weight of her guilt, combined with the mountain of evidence against her, would be too much for her to bear. It was only a matter of time before she broke under the pressure and confessed to her heinous crime. Jake meticulously gathered the evidence needed to build an airtight case against Carla. He knew that to secure a conviction, every detail had to be scrutinized and every lead followed. His investigation had revealed Carla's obsessive behavior, her deep-seated resentment toward Sophia, and the lengths she went to in order to be with Richard. Now it was time to piece it all together. Jake's first task was to consolidate the surveillance footage and photographs he had taken of Carla and Richard. The images clearly showed their intimate relationship, disproving any claims that Carla might make about their affair being over. These visual proofs were crucial in establishing Carla's motive. Next, Jake focused on the emails between Carla and Richard. The threatening messages Carla had sent, demanding that Richard leave Sophia or face the consequences, were damning evidence of her intent. Jake printed out the emails, highlighting the passages where Carla hinted at drastic measures if she didn't get her way. Jake also gathered testimonies from Carla's former colleagues and acquaintances. One witness, a close friend of Carla's, reluctantly shared a conversation they had just days before Sophia's murder. Carla had expressed a disturbing desire for Sophia to disappear, even making offhand remarks about how easy it would be to make it happen. This testimony painted a clear picture of Carla's premeditation. The most crucial piece of evidence, however, came from the crime scene itself. Jake had worked closely with Detective Sarah McMillan, sharing his findings and collaborating on the investigation. Forensic analysis revealed traces of Carla's DNA on the knife used to kill Sophia, as well as on the bedroom door handle. Despite her efforts to clean up, Carla had made critical mistakes that tied her directly to the murder. Jake and Sarah also discovered a partial fingerprint on the windowsill where Carla had entered the house. While it wasn't a complete match, it added to the mounting evidence against her. Jake knew that these physical proofs, combined with the digital and testimonial evidence, created a compelling case. With everything in place, Jake turned his attention to Carla's acquaintances. He interviewed neighbors, friends, and even casual acquaintances, piecing together a profile of a woman driven by desperation and jealousy. One neighbor recalled seeing Carla's car parked near the Carson house on several occasions, further corroborating her stalking behavior. The final piece of the puzzle came from a surprising source, Richard. Racked with guilt and realizing the extent of Carla's obsession, Richard agreed to cooperate fully with the investigation. He provided additional emails and messages from Carla, as well as his own account of their relationship. Richard's testimony was crucial in establishing the timeline and confirming Carla's motives. Jake presented his findings to Detective McMillan, who was impressed by the thoroughness of the investigation. Together, they compiled a detailed report outlining Carla's motives, actions, and the overwhelming evidence against her. The case was ready to go to trial. Carla was arrested at her apartment, her shocked expression revealing her belief that she had gotten away with murder. As the police led her away in handcuffs, Jake felt a sense of satisfaction. He had uncovered the truth and ensured that justice would be served for Sophia Carson. The legal proceedings were swift. Carla's defense tried to argue that she had been framed, but the evidence was irrefutable. The emails, the forensic evidence, and the testimonies painted a clear picture of a woman consumed by jealousy and willing to kill to achieve her desires. In the end, Carla was found guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Richard's involvement, though not criminal, left a stain on his reputation and devastated his family. The Carson children, Anna and Tyler, faced a future without their mother and with a father whose actions had indirectly led to her death. In the quiet aftermath of the trial, those left behind struggled to find a sense of normalcy. The Carson family's once bright future was now overshadowed by loss and betrayal. Megan, Sophia's sister, took on the role of guardian for Anna and Tyler. She moved into the Carson home, providing stability and support for the children. Megan's bond with her niece and nephew deepened as they navigated their shared grief. Together, they honored Sophia's memory, finding comfort in the love she had given them. Laura, Sophia's best friend, also played a crucial role in helping the family heal. She organized memorial events, celebrating Sophia's life and the impact she had on those around her. The community rallied together, offering support and love to the Carson children, ensuring they knew they were not alone. Richard, burdened by guilt and remorse, sought therapy to confront his actions and the consequences they had wrought. He knew he could never undo the pain he had caused, but he hoped to find a path to redemption. Richard's journey was one of self-reflection and accountability, a long and difficult process of coming to terms with his past. As the years passed, Anna and Tyler grew up, carrying with them the lessons of their mother's life and the strength of their Aunt Megan's love. They pursued their dreams, determined to honor Sophia's memory through their actions and achievements. The scars of their past remained, but they found ways to move forward, holding on to the positive memories of their family. The Carson case, with all its twists and tragedies, became a beacon of resilience for the community. It reminded them of the fragility of life and the strength that could be found in unity and support.
The story of Sarai Sierra. She traveled across the ocean only to meet her untimely death. The high-profile case of Sarai Sierra, an American photographer, shocked the world 10 years ago and mobilized the intelligence services of 2 countries on different continents. Sarai, a U.S. citizen, mysteriously disappeared without a trace during her photo tour in Istanbul, as if she had vanished into thin air. This story received extensive media coverage,
and the peculiar circumstances surrounding her disappearance sparked numerous rumors and conspiracy theories. Despite large-scale and timely search efforts, unfortunately, Sarai was not found alive. Her body was eventually discovered in the historic center of the city, near the walls of Sarayburnu. But how could such a tragic event occur in broad daylight in a popular tourist area without anyone noticing? To understand this case, we need to reconstruct the entire sequence of events that led to this tragedy. Let's begin. Sarai Sierra was born in New York on November 9, 1979, as the second child in a large family. She grew up with her older brother David and younger sister Christina. Her parents, Dennis and Bethany Jimenez, were of Puerto Rican descent and immigrated to the United States in 1973, settling in Manhattan where their children were born. Shortly after their move, the couple joined the local Protestant community and became evangelical Christians, raising their children with strict values and beliefs. Following the religious tenets of their adopted faith, the family attended church regularly, socialized with other community members, and the children attended Sunday school. Sarai grew up to be an active and creative person, known for her strong-willed and complex character. Unlike her younger sister Christina, who was quiet, obedient, and modest, Sarai was considered a rebel and a bit of a troublemaker. Despite her rebellious streak, she respected her parents and acknowledged their undisputed authority. In the Jimenez household, there were strict rules that all family members had to follow. This included the daily routines, many everyday activities, and specific behavioral norms. For example, the daughters were not allowed to socialize with boys, go on dates, or be out of the house after 9 p.m. All their friendships were closely monitored, and their parents always knew where and with whom their children were. Sarai's life revolved around home, school, and church, and her social circle was limited to these environments. The active and energetic Sarai felt constrained by these strict boundaries, but her parents believed they were acting in their children's best interest. During her school years, Sarai initially planned to attend a pedagogical university to become a teacher in the field of culture or arts. However, as she neared the end of her studies, she developed an interest in psychology and began considering a career in this field. It was during one of the religious community meetings that the slender, dark-haired beauty caught the eye of a young man named Stephen Sierra. He was the first to approach her and make an impression. At just 18 years old, Sarai made an excuse to start a conversation with someone new. Her new acquaintance was 7 years older than her. Despite the age difference and with the approval of their parents, the young couple began dating. Stephen, Sarai's father, and her mother, Bethany, immediately liked Dennis. They saw him as a decent, polite, and honest young man who would be a good match for their daughter. Sarai probably wasn't deeply in love with Dennis, but agreed to marry him to gain independence and move out of her parents' house, despite having a good relationship with them. Less than a year after meeting, in February 1999, the couple married. Sarai was 19, and Dennis was 26. Shortly after, they moved to Michigan, where Stephen's parents lived. For Sarai, this move was significant, as she had spent all her life in New York. The change of scenery was beneficial, and she seemed to come alive in her new surroundings. Sarai enjoyed shopping for items for their new home, making it cozy and exploring new acquaintances and places. She found a job as a receptionist at a local dental office and considered pursuing a college degree. However, she soon became pregnant and had children. A boy first, then a girl. Her university plans were postponed as she fully embraced motherhood. A couple of years later, the family, now with 2 children, decided to move to sunny California, settling in the picturesque neighborhood of Silver Lake in Los Angeles. Stephen had a job offer there, but they soon realized his income wasn't enough. They decided to return to New York, settling in a modest rented apartment near the Jimenez family. The couple faced serious financial problems. Sarai stayed home with the children while Stephen survived on casual income, leading them into debt. The situation improved when the children went to school, and Sarai got a job at an advertising agency. Stephen found permanent work as a bus driver on one of the city routes. As Sarai approached 30 and the children grew up, she revisited her plans for higher education. She decided against studying pedagogy and chose psychology instead, enrolling at a local university. However, she soon lost interest in her studies and decided to pursue something more inspiring and creative. Sarai had always been creative, with a talent for drawing and seeing beauty in everything. She became interested in photography and joined a well-known New York photography community. She gained recognition for her talent, capturing incredible shots with the right angles and harmonious compositions. Her work was praised by professionals for its creativity and vision. In early 2012, on her colleagues' advice, Sarai created a page on a popular social network to showcase her work. She quickly gained thousands of enthusiastic followers. This success motivated her to organize group photo tours to capture beautiful and unusual locations around the world. Sarai started with small trips within the country, specializing in architectural ensembles and historical monuments. Her images were well received, and she decided to expand her horizons. Sarai wanted to travel to Istanbul, one of the world's most ancient and beautiful cities, to capture its essence and historical sites. Her parents were not thrilled about this idea, as she had never left the country before, but Sarai was determined. She planned to be accompanied by her best friend, Magdalena. During this period, Sarai's relationship with her husband was deteriorating, and perhaps this trip was also a way for her to escape and reflect on her family situation. Sarai's husband began posting cryptic messages on social media about the value of marriage, love, and mutual respect, hinting at infidelity but later deleting the posts. Both Sarai and Stephen were experiencing emotional turmoil, but Sarai focused on her creativity. Shortly before the planned tour, Sarai learned that her best friend couldn't join her due to work issues. Despite her disappointment, Sarai decided to go ahead with her plans, reassuring her family that she would stay in touch daily. In addition to Istanbul, she planned to visit Germany and Austria for commercial photography assignments. Her trip was meticulously planned, with a clear vision of capturing the beauty of these historical sites. On January 7, 2013, a young American woman named Sarai boarded a flight from New York to Istanbul, carrying only a small amount of cash, a smartphone, a tablet, an inexpensive DSLR camera, and several professional lenses. Upon arrival, Sarai called her family to let them know she had arrived safely and was on her way to check into her pre-booked hotel. Due to her modest budget, she stayed in a remote area considered unsafe by locals. After settling into her room and changing clothes, Sarai immediately headed to the nearest metro station to explore the historic city center of Istanbul. She spent the day wandering the streets, photographing the city's beauty until nightfall. Each evening, she video called her parents and husband to share her experiences and plans for the next day. She also processed her photos and posted them on her social media accounts. During her time in Istanbul, Sarai was accompanied by a young man named Taylan, whom she had met on social media in mid-2012. Taylan had convinced Sarai to visit Turkey, and they had grown close through their correspondence. Sarai trusted Taylan completely, and they met almost every day, exploring various attractions together. Being a native of Istanbul, Taylan knew the city well
and arranged exciting excursions for Sarai to both popular and unusual locations. After spending a week in Turkey, Sarai had planned trips to a couple of European countries where she had several commercial photo shoots scheduled. To save on accommodation costs, she arranged to stay with her followers who had been long-time admirers of her work. In Vienna, she was met by a young man who was also passionate about photography and hosted her for a couple of days. Her Austrian host was a few years older and eager to meet the talented photographer in person. Sarai visited all her planned locations and met her scheduled contacts. Following her time in Austria, Sarai flew to Berlin, where she was again greeted by followers who showed her around the city. After completing her business in Germany, she returned to Istanbul, planning to stay 2 more days before heading back to New York. Upon her return, Taylan met her, and they spent the day touring the city before going to a popular local bar. After midnight, Taylan escorted Sarai back to her hotel, where they said goodbye. On January 21st, 2013, the final day of her photo tour, Sarai called her family to inform them of her flight details back to New York. Excited to return home after her longest trip away, she decided to take one last walk around Istanbul to capture more beautiful shots for her account. At the appointed time, Sarai's father arrived at the airport to pick her up, as her husband was at work. He arrived early to avoid traffic, but grew concerned when Sarai did not disembark from the plane, and her phone was unreachable. After waiting, her father contacted the airline and was shocked to learn that Sarai had not boarded the flight. He immediately called Stephen, Sarai's husband, to inform him of the situation and the need to organize a search. Stephen contacted the Istanbul hotel, only to find that Sarai's belongings were still in her room, and she had not checked out as planned. This news sent the family into a panic, as they realized they had no idea where Sarai was or how to proceed. Stephen accessed Sarai's social media accounts, looking for clues, and discovered her correspondence with Taylan, which raised his suspicions. He contacted Taylan, who claimed to have last seen Sarai the day before her scheduled departure. Before her flight, Sarai didn't call Taylan, despite having promised to do so. Sarai's family promptly reported her disappearance to the American embassy in Turkey, leading to a large-scale search operation. A special unit was even created for the search, and within a day, Sarai's husband and parents flew to Istanbul, believing their presence was crucial for a swift resolution given the short time since her disappearance. The investigating officers first sought to determine Sarai's social circle and speak with those who saw her shortly before she vanished. Hotel employees and Taylan were among the first to be interviewed. The hotel manager mentioned seeing Sarai the night before she was supposed to leave, noting she had a small bag and her camera. She was expected to check out the next day, but never did, and her husband had called the hotel worriedly when her belongings and documents were found still in her room. The investigation into Taylan revealed several interesting and ambiguous details. His real name was Taron, not Taylan, raising questions about why he had used an alias. Despite their close correspondence and Sarai's visit at his invitation, Taron insisted there was no romantic relationship, claiming they were just friends. The next phase of the investigation involved retracing Sarai's route on the day of her disappearance. Authorities checked her cell phone data and reviewed street CCTV footage. It was established that she took the subway to the Sultanahmet district, visited the promontory between the Bosphorus Strait and the Golden Horn Bay, and then Eminonu Market, where she was lost in a crowd. Her trail was briefly picked up again on the subway, heading towards the ancient walls of the Surici area, but she soon vanished from camera view. Searchers combed the area around the Surici ruins and interviewed locals, hoping someone might remember seeing a lone woman with a camera. After several hours, the search ended in a grim discovery. Near the ancient walls of Constantinople, they found the lifeless body of a young woman covered with an old, dirty blanket. Investigators believed the body had been there for about 10 to 12 days. The lower part of her body was unclothed, suggesting sexual violence, which was later confirmed. The autopsy revealed Sarai died from a blow to the head with a blunt object. She also had multiple hematomas and broken ribs. Particles of epithelial cells and blood under her fingernails indicated she had fought back. Strangely, while Sarai's bag, smartphone, and camera were stolen, her gold earrings, wedding ring, and expensive watch were not taken. CCTV footage from the area showed a woman resembling Sarai filming something on her phone before a man approached her, either hitting or pushing her, after which both disappeared from view. The attacker's identity was not immediately clear. The case quickly garnered international media attention, nearly provoking a scandal. Media appeals for information on the missing American woman became a daily occurrence, while the investigation remained tight-lipped. When Sarai's body was discovered, the situation grew more complex. Questions arose about why a young married woman had flown alone to Istanbul, what she was doing there, and how she funded her travels. These circumstances led to various conspiracy theories. Initially, investigators suspected Sarai had traveled to see her lover, Taron, and later another man in Austria. However, both men denied any intimate relationship with her. It was also revealed that the man who hosted Sarai in Vienna had a criminal record, leading to speculation that Sarai might have been used as a drug courier. Despite the theories, the exact circumstances of Sarai's tragic death remained a mystery, clouded by suspicion and unanswered questions. Despite thorough investigations, no evidence confirmed the speculation. There were also rumors that Sarai worked for U.S. intelligence, collecting information in other countries, supposedly funding her intercontinental flights. This theory was deemed implausible and wasn't seriously considered. The investigation of this high-profile case was conducted by Turkish Special Services along with the FBI, but initially, they had no solid leads. A few weeks later, the police identified a suspect, Tal Salih, a previously convicted and unemployed man who collected waste paper on the city streets. However, they couldn't question him because, shortly after the crime, he borrowed money from relatives and fled the country, presumably to the Hatti province, where he illegally crossed the border into Syria. After obtaining a warrant, police searched his home and collected his DNA, comparing it to the skin particles and seminal fluid found on the victim's body. This evidence confirmed that Tal Salih was the perpetrator. Additionally, the victim's phone was last active in his neighborhood. When it became known that the suspect had fled to Syria, the special services lost hope of apprehending him. However, fate intervened. Tal Salih was detained while trying to cross the border back into Turkey. He had joined Syrian rebels and obtained firearms but was injured in the conflict and decided to return home. He was arrested for carrying a weapon, and the local police soon realized his identity, promptly notifying the security services. During questioning, Tal Salih's confession was horrifying. He encountered Sarai on a hiking trail near the walls of Sebiru. Initially, he admired her from a distance as she took pictures. When he got closer, Sarai tried to communicate using gestures, but due to the language barrier, he didn't understand. He noticed her new iPhone and expensive camera and decided to rob her. As darkness fell and the area became deserted, Sarai turned and seemed to photograph him, triggering his violent response. He attacked her with a boulder, knocking her unconscious. They tumbled down to the ruins, which likely caused her bruises and broken ribs. Taking advantage of her unconsciousness, he committed sexual assault,
then delivered a fatal blow to her head. He took her bag, camera, and phone and left, later returning to cover her body with a blanket he found discarded nearby. He dragged the body to a less visible spot and left again. While the search for Sarai was ongoing, he revisited the crime scene to ensure she was dead and her body was undisturbed. When he learned from the news that her body had been found, he realized the police would soon catch him. He borrowed money from his sister and fled. He couldn't sell the stolen items. The camera was broken and the smartphone was password protected. He discarded everything before fleeing. Talsali did not deny his guilt and showed no remorse. DNA evidence confirmed his involvement. His skin particles were under her fingernails, and his seminal fluid was found on her body. Sarai's phone was last active near his residence, and video surveillance footage captured the attack. Courtney Clooney, who is 25 years old, had a serious argument with her boyfriend when he returned home in 2022. The situation escalated, and Courtney ended up calling 911 because her boyfriend became unresponsive. The police arrived, but it was too late. Later, prosecutors found a troubling phone call where Courtney threatened her boyfriend's life just before the 911 call. Additionally, her statements to the police didn't match the evidence found at the crime scene. Detectives believe there's more to the story than what Courtney has disclosed. Now let's delve into Courtney's background. Born in Midland, Texas in 1996, Courtney had dreams of becoming a model from a young age. She started pursuing this dream at the age of 12 or 13, around 2003. Her family later moved to Austin, Texas, where she continued her modeling and acting pursuits. However, her career seemed to stall for about a decade until 2015, when she faced legal trouble for public intoxication and drunk driving in California. Yet despite this setback, she managed to land a small role in a low-budget film. Courtney's life took a different direction when she discovered OnlyFans, an online platform, around 2019 or 2020. While this isn't conventional modeling, it became a significant part of Courtney's life and career. This marked a turning point for her, opening up new opportunities and challenges. Courtney's introduction to OnlyFans coincided with a particularly challenging period in her life. Sadly, this seems to be a common trend within the industry. Many individuals turn to platforms like OnlyFans when they feel they have no other options available to them. From what I've gathered through online research and interviews with former models, it's clear that many of them come to regret their decisions later on. They realize that once content is uploaded to the internet, it's virtually impossible to erase it completely. Exiting this line of work isn't straightforward either, as the content remains accessible and may be shared across numerous websites without the creator's consent. Courtney, like many others, aspired to make a living through modeling. Initially, she found some success in traditional modeling during her younger years. However, she harbored grander ambitions and sought a more substantial income. When she discovered the potential to earn significant sums through a different avenue of modeling on OnlyFans, she seized the opportunity. This transition occurred around 2019 or 2020. At first, Courtney's following on OnlyFans was modest, but it rapidly grew as she continued to upload content and engage with her audience through live streams. Before she knew it, she had amassed a substantial fan base, and her earnings skyrocketed. Reports circulated that she earned upwards of $3 million in less than a week, although this figure couldn't be independently verified due to the private nature of her financial records. But nevertheless, considering the earnings of other models in the industry, this claim appears plausible. For Courtney, everything seemed to be falling into place. She was realizing her dreams of becoming a successful model and enjoying financial abundance beyond her wildest imagination. However, her newfound success was about to take an unexpected turn, leading to consequences she never could have anticipated. In the midst of the tumultuous year of 2020, Courtney crossed paths with a man named Christian Oboncelli. Despite Courtney's status as a social media sensation, the origins of their relationship remain shrouded in mystery. What we do know is that they encountered each other in Austin during the pandemic and later decided to embark on a new chapter together in Florida, settling into a luxurious apartment in Miami. Their lifestyle, enviable to many, became the subject of fascination for countless social media followers who eagerly consumed every aspect of their seemingly idyllic existence. Navigating this topic delicately is essential, as I'm aware that there's a significant audience who find allure in the glamour of celebrity lives, living vicariously through their digital personas. While this lifestyle may resonate with some, it's not everyone's preference. It appears that Courtney's connection with Christian lacked a deep emotional foundation, at least initially. While it's likely that their bond deepened over time, Courtney's motives for entering the relationship seem somewhat ambiguous. During an interview with We in Miami, a popular local podcast, Courtney shed light on her experiences with OnlyFans, disclosing the substantial income she generated from her online endeavors, often raking in six figures monthly. However, she also revealed a revealing aspect of her personality and romantic inclinations. When questioned about her dating preferences, Courtney hinted at a discernible pattern, acknowledging a predilection for affluent partners. Specifically, she noted a preference for wealthy black men. While I'll refrain from further commentary on this matter, I'll leave it to your discretion to interpret this statement, as it undoubtedly raises questions and invites speculation. It's evident that Courtney and Christian's relationship was fraught with difficulties and lacked the foundation of a healthy partnership. Courtney's candid remarks about her initial motives for dating Christian offer a glimpse into her mindset during that period. However, the situation escalated in 2021 when law enforcement intervened. In July of 2021, police responded to a distress call from Courtney and Christian's residence. According to police records, a violent altercation had erupted between the couple. While the instigator of the argument remains unclear, Courtney's behavior during the altercation was alarming. Reports indicate that she physically assaulted Christian, hurling objects, including sharp items like glass, in his direction. Christian, by contrast, appeared to refrain from retaliatory actions and instead sought to defuse the situation by contacting the authorities. Remarkably, he later dropped the charges against Courtney when they reconciled. Unfortunately, this incident was not isolated. Court documents and police records reveal a pattern of recurring conflicts between the couple, often instigated by Courtney. Reports from neighbors and security footage corroborate the tumultuous nature of their relationship, with frequent arguments, shouting matches, and instances of physical altercations. While both parties bear some responsibility for the tumult, Courtney's actions seem to have been more aggressive and volatile. In February 2022, security footage captured a disturbing incident in which Courtney physically assaulted Christian in an elevator. Despite Christian's efforts to maintain composure, Courtney continued to lash out, striking him repeatedly and attempting to pull his hair. Just a month later, the situation reached a tragic climax when Courtney's rage spiraled out of control, resulting in a devastating outcome. The Miami-Dade state attorney aptly summarized the situation, describing Courtney's behavior as aggressive, tempestuous, and combative. Tragically, the toxic dynamic between Christian and Courtney culminated in a violent incident that could have been prevented. The timeline of events surrounding the tragic incident was meticulously reconstructed by law enforcement officers in the days following the crime. Key fob records from the couple's apartment provided crucial insights into the moments leading up to a fateful argument that ended in irreparable consequences. On April 3, 2022, at approximately 1:15 p.m., Christian left the apartment building for a brief period. He returned at 4:32 p.m., bearing sandwiches from Subway. Meanwhile, Courtney was engaged in her social media activities, posting an Instagram video shortly before Christian's return. It appears that she concluded her online presence with a live Q&A session, shared as a reel on the same day. During this time, Courtney had two phone conversations with her mother, occurring at 4:43 p.m. and 4:56 p.m. respectively. Remarkably, her mother detected nothing amiss during these exchanges, aside from Courtney's vocal altercation with Christian, which had become a routine occurrence in their relationship. Tragically, sometime between these phone calls, a crime of grave consequence transpired within a 13-minute window. Witnesses reported a disturbance in Courtney's apartment, prompting building security to be called around 4:46 p.m. However, Courtney did not contact emergency services until 4:57 p.m., allegedly claiming she had acted in self-defense during the distressing 911 call. In the background, Christian's desperate plea for help foreshadowed the tragic outcome. When officers arrived at the scene, Courtney was promptly arrested. However, the evidence presented a stark contrast to her claims of self-defense. Investigators noted inconsistencies in Courtney's statements and confession, casting doubt on her credibility. Moreover, the coroner's report revealed a significant wound inflicted with apparent intent, contradicting Courtney's version of events. Prosecutors remained unconvinced by her narrative, and a chilling audio recording surfaced, further implicating Courtney in the tragic outcome, portraying her as both deceitful and culpable in the loss of life. Following a brief investigation, Courtney Clooney was arrested for homicide, with law enforcement uncovering a disturbing threat made by Courtney just weeks before Christian's tragic demise. In a chilling recording shared by WSVN, Courtney can be heard unleashing a profanity-laced tirade at Christian, expressing a desire to harm him. With mounting evidence against Courtney, investigators delved deeper into the history of assault within the relationship, dating back to 2020. Additionally, several derogatory tweets posted by Christian during his high school years surfaced, suggesting a darker side to his character. As the investigation progressed, authorities began to consider that the reports of assault may have been mutual, with both Courtney and Christian victimizing each other. Nevertheless, the focus remained on the events leading up to Christian's death, where evidence against Courtney was compelling. While understanding the context of Courtney's anger and resentment is important, it does not excuse her actions. Despite potential provocation, Courtney must be held accountable for her crime. Her trial commenced in February 2023, but given the complexity of the case, a conclusion may not be reached anytime soon. Currently incarcerated and denied bail due to being deemed a flight risk, Courtney awaits justice behind bars. As the legal proceedings unfold, questions linger regarding the justification of Courtney's actions. Was she driven to violence by years of abuse, or is she simply a cold-blooded killer? The answer remains elusive, prompting speculation and debate among those following this tragic case closely. As always, thank you for tuning in to another episode of True Crime Story. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, sharing your thoughts on Courtney's culpability in this heartbreaking saga. Until next time, this is Sunny signing off. Certainly, let's delve deeper into the intricacies of Courtney and Christian's relationship, the dynamics at play, and the broader societal implications of such cases. The relationship between Courtney and Christian is emblematic of the complex and often fraught dynamics that can exist behind closed doors. While on the surface, they may have projected an image of glamour and success, beneath the facade lay a turbulent and troubled partnership. The discovery of the threatening recording, in which Courtney expresses a chilling intent to harm Christian, sheds light on the darker undercurrents of their relationship. It raises questions about the power dynamics, control, and underlying tensions that may have simmered beneath the surface for some time. The revelation of derogatory tweets from Christian's past adds another layer of complexity to the narrative. It challenges the perception of him as a victim and complicates the portrayal of Courtney as the sole aggressor. It underscores the need for a nuanced understanding of interpersonal dynamics and the ways in which trauma and past experiences can shape behavior. As the legal proceedings unfold, the case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about domestic violence, gender dynamics, and societal expectations. It highlights the insidious nature of abuse and the challenges survivors face in seeking justice and recognition for their experiences. Moreover, it prompts a broader conversation about accountability and responsibility. While Courtney's actions cannot be excused, understanding the context in which they occurred is essential for a comprehensive understanding of the case. It requires us to reckon with the complexities of trauma, mental health, and the cyclical nature of violence. Ultimately, the case serves as a sobering reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked abuse and the urgent need for support systems, resources, and interventions to prevent such tragedies from occurring in the future. As we await further developments in the trial, let us not forget the human lives at the center of this story and the profound impact it has had on all those involved. May it serve as a catalyst for reflection, dialogue, and action to address the root causes of domestic violence and create safer, more equitable communities for all. Certainly, let's explore the broader societal implications of Courtney and Christian's story, as well as the systemic issues that underpin cases of domestic violence. Courtney and Christian's relationship offers a stark reminder of the pervasive nature of domestic abuse and the complexities inherent in addressing it. Their narrative underscores the need for a multifaceted approach to tackling intimate partner violence, one that extends beyond individual culpability to encompass systemic factors such as gender norms, power dynamics, and access to resources. At its core, their story reflects the insidious nature of abuse, which often goes unrecognized or unreported due to fear, shame, or a lack of support. The fact that both Courtney and Christian were implicated in acts of violence highlights the cyclical nature of abuse and the ways in which trauma can perpetuate harmful behaviors within relationships. Moreover, the case raises questions about the adequacy of existing support systems for survivors of domestic violence. Did Courtney have access to the resources and assistance she needed to safely leave the relationship? Were there missed opportunities for intervention that could have prevented the tragic outcome? Additionally, the role of social media in shaping perceptions of relationships and exacerbating power imbalances cannot be overlooked. The curated images of perfection often portrayed on platforms like Instagram can obscure the reality of abuse and prevent victims from seeking help due to fears of judgment or disbelief. As the trial progresses, it is essential to center the experiences of survivors and prioritize their safety and well-being above all else. This requires a coordinated effort from law enforcement, social services, and community organizations to provide comprehensive support to those affected by domestic violence. Ultimately, Courtney and Christian's story serves as a sobering reminder of the urgent need for societal change. It calls for greater awareness, education, and advocacy to challenge the attitudes and behaviors that perpetuate abuse and create a culture of accountability and respect within relationships.